Welcome to Mr. Jad Reacts to Ting and Ting and Ting. I'm Mr. Jad, and today we're going to be watching 10 most dangerous countries for Americans and Westerners. This is going to be interesting, and I'm from a small island. I don't know if people would consider me a Westerner or not. Uh, Geographically, they may. I don't know. But I know I could go anywhere I want to. So it's be interested to see where some people can and can't go. Let's YouTube and simmer and see what I go on here.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the World According to Briggs. Today is another international video. Did you know some countries are more dangerous than Detroit or a lingerie party at my cousin's ex-wife's house? Yes, it's hard to believe, I know. She's had lingerie parties. In general, the world can be a dangerous place. You could be in danger no matter where your plane lands. The thing is, some countries excel in danger, and some even bump it up a notch depending on where you hail from. If you think everyone in the world loves America and its people, you've lived a sheltered life, and I want to congratulate you for escaping wherever you were being held and now are able to watch my videos on the internet. The fact is, some countries are dangerous for everyone, especially Americans. So much so, the Department of State, some people know it as the State Department, but it's actually the Department of State, updates a report every couple weeks called the Travel Advisory. This is a report that ranks the danger level a country might have for Americans if they travel there. It has colors like a danger mood ring and goes by levels. Level 1 being blue, exercise normal precaution, all the way up to red for do not travel here. In today's video, we're looking at the top 10 level 4s and find out why. Alright, so let's see what countries you should avoid. Starting
Let's see.
Number 10, Syria. You should not go to Syria unless you're bulletproof. That is probably the best piece of advice anyone has ever given you. Syria has been in a civil war for about 9 years now. Now, here's the fun part. It's a multi-sided civil war, so there's like 3, 4, 5 different factions fighting each other. That's always fun. That could be a problem, because you never know who's shooting at you. Let's say you're cruising with a Syrian real estate agent looking for a nice, partially bombed out duplex, and shooting starts. You won't know who it is. The State Department offers this warning. No part of Syria is safe from violence. Kidnappings by armed groups, arbitrary arrests, the use of chemical warfare, shelling, and aerial bombardment pose a significant risk of death or serious injury. The destruction of the infrastructure, housing, medical facilities, schools, and power and water utilities has also increased the hardships inside the countries. So here it is. Don't go to Syria.
I mean that kind of stands for everybody. I mean, I wouldn't go to Syria. However, you also have to realize that there's certain parts of Syria that there is no fighting. I have a friend who is there now. He's from there, granted. And when everybody's talking about bombing and all of that, and he's got a business, and he would go between Syria and Jordan, for his business, and he's there and he's okay. Maybe because he's Syrian, and I'm not sure if he's Islamic or not. But if it's that bad, because as we know, there's a lot of infighting going on there. Like you said, there's 4 major fractions. So if he's got, and he lives in Damascus too. Going back and forth and stuff like that without getting into any kind of life-threatening situations, you have to ask yourself how bad it is there. But then again, for precautionary reasons, it's how bad it is there for him being from there. You know what I mean? Now, I would really like to go see Damascus just for the whole historical significance of the area and stuff like that. But would I go? I'll have to think twice. If you're from Syria, comment down below. Let me know, man. I would love to go check that out and see what the culture is and thing like there. Let's keep going.
Number 9, Burkina Faso. The first thing I should explain is I didn't just make that up. Burkina Faso is a real country in Africa, and it is very unfriendly towards Westerners, especially Americans. It is a West African country between Mali and Ghana with about 20 million residents. About 98% of them would be considered living in poverty. There is no reason to move here unless you're a dirt road enthusiast, because they got a lot of them. If you do feel like scratching this place off your bucket list, here's what the State Department says. Terrorist groups continue plotting attacks in Burkina Faso. Terrorists may conduct attacks anywhere with little or no warning. Are there terrorists out there like, pencil me in for next Thursday, I'm gonna blow up your building? Is that going on? I think they always attack with little or no warning. Targets could include hotels, restaurants, police stations, custom offices, areas in or around or near mines, place of worship, military posts, and schools. In other words, these guys don't care. they'll blow you up. Kidnappings and hostage taking are a threat throughout the country. On May 10th, 2019, a hostage rescue operation freed 4 international hostages that had been kidnapped in Burkina Faso. The government of Burkina Faso has maintained a state of emergency for most of the country. I'm sure they say most because there's parts of this country that are so dry, camels don't even like to go to.
Wow. I didn't even know about that
8,
country.
South Sudan. South Sudan is a landlocked country in East Central Africa with a population of about 12 million people. I did a video about the worst airports in the world, and South Sudan's airport was on that list. Among the many issues this place has, the airport's restroom is a tent with a trench. I'm not even kidding. Every month or
A
so
pit
they move
toilet.
the tent and the trench someplace else. There's no indoor plumbing at the airport, along with most other places. As a Sudanese man once told me, water is for drinking, not for pooping. So I guess that's their little motto there. Anyway, here's the State Department's take on South Sudan. Violent crimes such as carjacking, shootings, ambushes, assaults, robberies, and kidnappings are common throughout South Sudan. Female foreign nationals have been victims of all kinds of bad stuff. They listed it, but I can't tell you because I don't want to get demonetized, but you can imagine what that is. Armed robberies and other violent crimes happen all the time in the streets of South Sudan, when you could find streets. An armed conflict is ongoing, including fighting between various political and ethnic groups. Weapons are readily available to the population. In addition, cattle raids throughout the country often lead to violence. They steal each other's cows, apparently. News reporting in South Sudan without the proper documentation from the South Sudanese Media Authority is considered illegal, and any journalistic work there is very dangerous. Journalists often report being harassed in South Sudan, and many of them have been killed while covering conflicts. So yeah, there's no reason to go here. No.
No, they shouldn't be killing journalists. But, especially Western journalists, is it the content of how they portray these places that makes people, not want them to film? No, don't go crazy on me and say, oh, they're vicious, they're fighting a war and all of that stuff. The point is, look at how Africa has been portrayed all through the years by media up here in the Western world. Savages, they eat people. I had somebody commented that Africa have the largest population of cannibals, or had, or historically speaking, the largest population of cannibals in the world, and the most cases of it in the world. You know what I mean? You just portray them as that, then they don't want you there. If you're gonna come and tell a story, hey, this is what's happening, this is why it's happening, this is how we're gonna try to fix what's happening, that's one thing. But if you come there and just go and show poverty and dying and how animalistic these people are to each other and all of that, they don't want you to come there and do that. That's kind of understandable. They're going to be a little bit hostile. Even when I was a kid growing up, all I hear about Africa is starving children, malnutrition. You know what I mean? And we all know that there are certain places, like I think it's Rwanda, have the cleanest city in the world. They clean up that city, every day, they're picking stuff up. One guy went to visit, was watching a YouTube channel, I think it was Wadamaya, and I was watching his channel, and he said he was sitting in a culvert next to a gutter, eating because it's so clean, you know what I mean? But they make it seem like it's a pile of dirt everywhere, and everybody's living in squalor and all of that. So, that's the response you get. Let's keep going here.
Number 7, Yemen. Yemen hasn't been a tourist hotspot since, pretty much forever. The place kind of blows. It is a country on the Arabian Peninsula that shares a border with Oman to the east, Saudi Arabia to the north, and the Gulf of Aden to the south. Since medieval times, this place has had conflicts. The Yemen Revolution followed other Arab Spring mass protests in early 2011. The uprising was initially against unemployment, economic conditions, and corruption, as well as against the government proposals to modify the constitution so that the guy in charge's son could inherit the presidency. So, no more elections, you just give it to your son, which is kind of like a monarchy, and the people weren't going for it. In March of 2011, police snipers opened fire on a pro-democracy camp, killing more than 50 people. Good times in Yemen. Call your travel agent. Pay your life insurance first. Let's see what the State Department has to say about Yemen. Starts off pretty plainly. Do not travel to Yemen due to terrorism, civil unrest, health risks, kidnappings, armed conflict, and landmines. The U.S. Embassy in Sana'a, I think that's how you pronounce it, suspended its operations and February of 2015, and the U.S. government is unable to provide emergency services to U.S. citizens in Yemen. In other words, you're on your own, everyone. Terrorist groups continue to plot and conduct attacks in Yemen. Terrorists may attack with little or no warning. There it is again. Little or no warning. Why do they keep saying that? And they target public sites, transportation hubs, markets, shopping malls, and local government facilities. Additionally, there is a continuing threat of kidnapping, detention by terrorists, criminal elements by non-government actors. Employees of Western organizations may be targeted for attack or kidnapping. Military conflict can cause significant destruction to the infrastructure, housing, medical facilities, schools, power, and water utilities. This limits availability to electricity, clean water, and medical care. Instability often hampers the ability of humanitarian organizations to deliver critically needed food, medicine, and water. There's also reports of landmines throughout Yemen. Cholera is present throughout Yemen as well. There's limited availability to medicine and medical supplies, and adequate medical treatment is unavailable if you get cholera. If you guys haven't picked up on it already, don't go to Yemen.
I smoke cigars sometimes, and there's some Yemeni people that own the cigar shop down the street from where I live. It's like half a block down the street. Nice people. Here's something that I try to explain to people, okay? The one thing that the rest of the world seem to be able to do, in certain circumstances, certain instances, they are able to differentiate between the government and the people. Now, especially when you come from a place where you had a government that was not very nice to you, why would you trust somebody else's government? So we don't trust our own, but we're going to trust Westerners or Easterners, like in my country, after we had the revolution, we had that battle going on between the US and Russia, for that territory down there and stuff, because for some reason we were strategic, they could land planes there and hit America from there and stuff like that. That was one of the things that we were told. But just because there was an American intervention in my country or invasion doesn't mean that we hate Americans. Because that is a government-led action there. And when I came here, that sort of solidifies the idea that why am I hating Americans when most of them don't even know where my country is? They don't know what we live like there. They don't know anything. People ask me if we still have if we have television, do we have cars? They don't know, except for what government tell them. So you have to differentiate between the two. Of course, in this day and age, you shouldn't be unaware of other places because we have the internet. You know what I mean? And let me drop it to you. When you on the internet to try to learn about other places, don't just look at the people that's telling the story from your perspective or your cultural perspective or your religious perspective or your political perspective. It's always, and don't listen to the nationalists in those countries. Somewhere in the middle where the ordinary people are just trying to live day to day and enjoy life and be happy, that's where the truth is. That's where the humanity is. That's what we ought to look for. You know what I'm saying? Let's get back to this.
Number 6, Venezuela. The US and Venezuela haven't been on the best of terms for some time now. Just last year, we unfriended them on Facebook. On March 11, 2019, the U.S. Department of State announced the withdrawal of all diplomatic personnel from the U.S. Embassy in Caracas. All services, routine and emergency, would be suspended until further notice. Now, here's the warning that the State Department gives about Venezuela. Violent crimes such as homicide, armed robbery, kidnapping, and carjacking are common in Venezuela. Political rallies and demonstrations occur often with little notice, sort of like those terrorists. Demonstrations typically elicit a strong police and security force response that includes the use of tear gas, pepper spray, water cannons, and rubber bullets against the participants, occasionally devolving into looting and vandalism. There's a shortage of food, electricity, water, medicine, and medical supplies throughout much of Venezuela. The US CDC issued a level 3 warning to avoid non-essential travel to Venezuela, and that was in 2018 due to inadequate health care and a breakdown of the medical infrastructure in Venezuela. Venezuela is in bad shape. They have been for some time, and it is getting worse. It's kind of been pushed to the back of the news channels lately because we've got other things going on, but those people are in bad shape. Don't go there. Don't be part of the problem.
I'm kind of iffy about the whole Venezuelan thing. The reason why that's happening. Now, my country is like, good Lord, about half a day by boat to Venezuela. And most of the Venezuelans that I have encountered were pretty nice and friendly people. Like I said, middle of the road, not the nationalists or not the other side. Middle of the road people, ordinary people. And those are the people are called human beings. The others are called either cultural beings or political beings. And it's not an attempt to dehumanize them. It's just the point that, they strongly believe in what they believe in and they don't care what nobody else says. Now, let me tell you something about Venezuela that I've heard now, you know what I mean? So don't jump on me and ting when I say this. Was it Chavez when he got power? He nationalized the oil. Now, when you nationalize the oil, that means outside companies can't really get a fix on it. So once they lose that oil there, the smear campaign begin. I'm not saying Chavez wasn't bad. I'm not saying he wasn't a dictator. That's not what I'm saying. But it usually boils down to what's going on there, where the money is going, where the money is coming from, where the money is centered. That's what you got to look for. You know what I mean? No, the thing about Venezuela is too, if there's no trade going on, which is in every country, there's no trade going on. There probably was trade embargoes on them. They can't get food. They can't get anything. And this is what I kind of understand about people, right? Because my country had a little bit of that happen to it. They put a trade embargo on you, and they try to make it the people's fault that they don't overthrow the government. But if the government's got all the arms and all of the strong hands, what are we going to do? So we just stay there, and I'm not talking about my country because that didn't really happen in my country to a larger extent as it would happen in like Central South America, like it did back in the 80s, and like Cuba and stuff like that, like a total trade embargo and you can't get nothing. Luckily for us, even in ordinary times, we are self-sufficient. In the backyard, there's like corn and peas and lettuce and stuff back there. But and another thing too, once the main industry leave, okay, no, I heard this at school back home. Jamaica was a bauxite producing country, one of the biggest bauxite producing countries back in the day. When the bauxite ran out, all the companies left, all the jobs left, poverty set in, people get desperate, crime goes up. We could also say the same thing for where I am right now. This was a big steel plant area, those steel plants here, steel plants there. That stuff starts shutting down, the money start going out, crime start going up, drug addiction start going up. Things just happen like that, and people go, well, what's wrong with them? You gotta look at the whole picture to figure out, what the root cause of a situation is, and that's just the way I see it. You can't just say, well, those people are bad and those people are evil and these people are evil. Let's look at the whole situation. If you're living in a situation and all you have is those who are in power, even though they're oppressing you, but those are the people that's holding the food and the jobs and all of that, you don't really have a choice. Especially in some countries where neighbor rats out neighbor. Let's get back to the video.
Number 5, Mali. Mali is a landlocked country in
Mali?
Africa that nobody knows much about. You probably know something about it, but what you know, you probably think isn't real, so you think you don't know anything about it. Have I confused you? Here you go. I'll explain. Mali is home to the ancient city of Timbuktu. Yes, it's real. Timbuktu is like the last city before you hit the Sahara Desert and run the risk of dying of dehydration or heat stroke. So bring sunblock and some Gatorade. And also bring some of that stuff for your lips, because when you're dying of heat stroke or dehydration, your lips are all cracked. It's just worse. It's just the worst. Here's the State Department's official warning. Don't go there. Violent crimes such as kidnappings, armed robberies are common in Mali. Violent crime is more of a concern during the local holidays and seasonal events around Bamako. Bamako is the capital city. Roadblocks and random corrupt police checkpoints are commonplace throughout the country, especially at night. Terrorists and armed groups continue plotting kidnappings and attacks in Mali, like all terrorists do. They may attack with little or no warning, again, like all terrorists do, targeting nightclubs, hotels, restaurants, places of worship, anywhere Westerners are. Due to risks to civil aviation, operations within the vicinity of Mali are restricted by the Federal Aviation Administration. You can't even fly into Mali.
Here's another thing about places like that too. A lot of these places, and I'm not talking about Mali specifically, but a lot of these places have natural resources, right? And who reaps the natural resources? It's usually the richer countries that's come on there. So If I see somebody from a rich country there, you figure they have money because 9 times of the 10 they took it from you. You know what I'm saying? So there's a disdain there because people come in and take everything and they go use it for the betterment of the people, which in a lot of cases it's not. It's just a betterment for the rich, pretty much. But so there's a sort of disdain there. Uh, Especially for places that have a long history of this happening to them. Like my country didn't, so we don't have no real reason to hate anybody, that comes to visit there. But we got to take that into consideration too. You have to take into consideration what outsiders have done to them. You know what I mean? Not only that, you have to take into consideration also what outsiders have used their governments to do against them. It's a whole quagmire of stuff going on there.
Number 4, Iraq. So, I shouldn't have to tell anyone this, but stay out of Iraq. It was actually safer when we were blowing this country up. State Department's warning goes like this.
What?
Do
What
not
does that
travel
mean?
to Iraq due to terrorism, kidnapping, and an armed conflict. U.S. citizens in Iraq are at high risk for violence and kidnapping. Numerous terrorist and insurgent groups are active in Iraq and often attack both Iraqi security forces and civilians. Anti-U.S. militias threaten U.S. citizens and Western companies throughout Iraq. Attacks by improvised explosive devices, IEDs, occur in many of the areas in the country, including Baghdad. On December 31st, 2019, the embassy suspended public services until further notice as a result of damage done by an Iranian-backed terrorist attack on the embassy compound. It goes on. U.S. citizens should not travel through Iraq to Syria to engage in the armed conflict there. You would face extreme personal risks such as kidnapping, injury, and death, and legal risks, arrest, fines, and expulsion. The Kurdish regional government stated that it would impose prison sentence of up to 10 years on individuals who illegally cross the border. Additionally, fighting on behalf of or supporting terrorist organizations is a crime that can result in penalties including prison time, large fines in the United States. So there's no reason to go to Iraq.
No, Iran is a pretty uh, interesting case study there because I'm old enough to remember the Shah of Iran. Apparently, he was a dictator, and his dictatorship facilitated the Ayatollah Khomeini coming in there and taking over the country, taking over with this extremist. I hate to call it extremist to an extent because that sort of turns people's stomach when they think about extremists. But they come in with their extreme religious beliefs and stuff like that. But yeah, and people are always talking about Iran here, Iran, and then when I mention the Shah, they don't know what I'm talking about. That's why you have to go back and look at history, especially if it's a history that you were alive for, which you could understand a little bit better. That brings us up to time, and there's more to it than that. But I'm looking at it from just the Iran situation, because I remember that there was even songs about the Shah of Iran back home, and what was going on there. Let's get back to this.
Number 3, China. Okay, so everybody knows what's going on with that illness. Now, I can't say the actual name because I'll get demonetized, and I agree with this policy because if YouTube didn't, people would be sensationalizing it and using the name and probably flood YouTube with bad information. So we'll just call it the beer illness. The State Department's official statement is, do not travel to China due to the beer illness first being identified in China. On January 30th, the World Health Organization determined that the rapidly spreading outbreak constitutes a public health emergency of international concern. Travelers should be prepared for the possibility of travel restrictions with little or no advance warning. Most commercial air carriers have reduced or suspended routes to and from China. So if you're there, you're kind of stuck in a lot of cases. Those currently in China should attempt to depart by commercial means. We strongly urge U.S. citizens remaining in China to stay home as much as possible and limit contact with others, including large gatherings. Consider stocking up on food and other supplies to limit movement outside the home in the event that the situation deteriorates further. The ability of the U.S. Embassy and Consulate to provide assistance to U.S. nationals within China may be limited. So it's a bad situation, and it has the potential of getting worse, or it has the potential of just going away. Really don't know just yet. We'll find out, right?
See, man, that sucks. Have you noticed that all these countries where we're not supposed to go have like the longest history? A history that even goes far further that back to the biblical times and even before then. Man, all that history there. I would like to go peruse that them places and take in the history and stuff. It's a history of man. They all play a pivotal role in it. You know what I'm saying? Africa, Iran, Yemen. You know, all these old places. You know, that's just sad, man. We just can't just chill out and learn about each other by visiting each other. Because if you don't know people, it's easy to like be adversary to them. That's what I'm thinking.
Number 2, Iran. If you haven't been watching the news since, I don't know, 1970, Iran hates the United States. They hate everything we do, including women driving, women wearing what they want, dating, movies, and bowling. Oddly enough, I know an interpreter who said that when he was a boy in the schools in Iran, that they would play these videos on how evil the U.S. was, like whole propaganda stuff. He said for some reason, they always showed Americans bowling. And even at a young age, him and his friends always wanted to come to America just to bowl, and they could hardly wait. Anyway, tensions have always been high between the U.S. and Iran, and when we blew up their top general a couple months back, things got worse. Here's the State Department's warning. Do not travel to Iran due to the high risk of kidnapping and arbitrary arrests and detention of U.S. citizens. Those present in Iran should exercise increased caution due to an outbreak of the beer illness. U.S. citizens visiting or residing in Iran have been kidnapped, arrested, and detained on false charges. Iranian authorities continue to unjustly detain and imprison U.S. citizens, often dual national Iranian American citizens, including students, journalists, business travelers, and academics, on charges including espionage and posing a threat to the national security of Iran. Iranian authorities routinely delay consular access to detained U.S. citizens and consistently deny consular access to dual Iranian U.S. citizens. So yeah, it's just a mess over there. They hate us and they do everything they can to make it difficult. And right now there's all kinds of accusations that they've been helping plan all these different attacks on us. So yeah, stay out of Iran.
I talked too soon about Iran. I didn't realize, you know what I mean? Iran and Iraq is like two different situations. They would have talked too soon about Iran because I guess premonition, I knew it was coming. But they hate us. They hate us. They hate us. And we just throw that's two words we throw around like nonchalantly, one more so than the other these days. Hate is the word that's been thrown around a lot more these days. And we casually throw around love to each other too. I don't understand what's up with all the hate, man. I don't remember all this hate going on. I mean, even though we had 2 revolutions and an invasion in my country, we didn't use that word hate a whole lot, and we still don't use that word hate a lot. But I hear it a lot these days. I hate this, I hate that, I hate the other. How about trying to find something to love, man? Why do we have to be so adversary all the time? I mean, we go again with Iran, man, all that history there. Now, also, they are as much to be blamed for the situation with their leaders. Their leaders are much to be blamed for all of that too, because the best way to keep a people under your wing or under your thumb is by isolating them from the rest of the world. If they don't learn about other stuff, and if they don't learn what natural human freedoms are, they're not missing anything. And this goes for Western countries too now. That doesn't go for those countries there. It goes for countries here too. That's why in Western countries, news are told from their own cultural perspective. So yeah, you're free to go, but we gonna tell you this.
And number 1, Haiti. In my
Yeah,
life,
Haiti's
I
bad.
don't remember anything good coming out of Haiti. In recent years, the Haitian government seems to have completely lost control of the entire island. Besides the people being out of control, they've had serious earthquakes and hurricanes over the years that have just destroyed the island. Now here's the State Department's thing. Do not travel to Haiti due to crime, civil unrest, and kidnappings. Violent crimes such as armed robbery and carjacking are common in Haiti. Kidnapping is widespread. Kidnappers may use sophisticated planning or take advantage of unplanned opportunities. Victims include U.S. citizens. Demonstrations, tire burning, and roadblocks are frequent and unpredictable unpredictable and can turn violent. Local police may lack the resources to respond effectively to serious criminal incidents. Emergency response, including ambulance service, is limited or non-existent. Travelers are sometimes followed and violently attacked and robbed shortly after leaving the international airport. The U.S. Embassy requires its personnel to use official transportation to and from the airport. Robbers and carjackers have attacked private vehicles stuck in heavy traffic congestion and often target lone drivers, often women driving alone. Alright, so that's my video of...
I mean, I have one thing to say about Haiti, and this is just my own observation. Haiti is being punished for that 34? Or was it, okay, whatever the year was, with Haiti had the first successful slave revolution that took over a country. They've been struggling since. Trade embargoes, their own leaders being dictated to them. They're just struggling. People just taking advantage of those people over there, man. Big time, big time. I hope you guys learn some things from this one here, and we need to start like helping each other, not because we want something. Not say you go to somebody, say if you come to my religion, then we gonna help you. Just help because it's human. Just help because it's human. I'm gonna leave a link in this description for the video, okay? And you can go check this out yourself and thing. And also I'll leave links to some of the other videos, the top 10s of things that you should or shouldn't do. I'll leave it here so you can watch it, and one will pop up here too. I'll leave a playlist too so you can go check it. Just keep watching the vibe with us. Let's us all learn about each other as we go along, alright? You all take care of each other. Cool runnings.